Hey YouTube, I'm here to read askreddit for you to help your day go by a little bit smoother. And maybe just help you multitask or work a little better too. What was your, it seemed like a good idea at the time story? In high school, my friend discovered that he was a particular agile person at running towards a wall, kicking off it into a backflip. He would do this all day, every day, before school, at lunch, etc. One day we were inside a classroom and the teacher had stepped out for a moment. Of course, he took this opportunity to try his little trick. He didn't. However, take into account the fact that drywall might not support his weight as well as the brick and concrete walls he tried before. His leg extended up, busting straight through the wall to the other side into a classroom full of students taking an exam. So I wasn't actually in the class taking the exam, but to this day, I still imagine how strange and hilarious it would be to be sitting in a class and suddenly seeing a leg burst through the wall. Makes me smile just thinking about it. Reminds me of the time I was in high school. We had 2 different lunch periods, so some people were in class while others were at lunch. We were allowed to go outside on days when it was nice, so we took this opportunity to play some frisbee. Well, an unexpected breeze came along and took the frisbee off course and perfectly through a third-floor window and hit a kid taking an exam. I was chuckled thinking everyone quietly taking a test safely inside the classroom when out of nowhere, BAM! Worst part was the teacher didn't toss us back the frisbee. I ran across the street with my eyes closed when I was 14. I didn't get hit by a car, however I ran into a tree headfirst and cut my face and knee open. For all you asking what my thought process was, it was as follows. Who am I kidding? I have no idea what I was thinking. Shooting each other with fireworks on New Year's. One landed directly in my eyes. Luckily it didn't go off and I wasn't injured. When I was 15, my best friend and I just got new BB pistols. They were Walther CP99. Looked identical to the real Walther CP9 with a removable magazine and no orange tip. We were playing with them in the backseat of his mom's car. They weren't loaded, we were just excited and wanted to take him out the box. She knew we had him out and didn't think anything of it. This is the late 90s, by the way. Before going back to his house, she went through the drive-thru at Burger King. You know where this is going. He's ordering food with 2 large 15-year-olds holding guns and poking them at everything. Fast forward 30 minutes, we're pulling into their driveway, and his dad comes running out of the house yelling hysterically. One of his friends just called, said he heard on the police scanner that they were looking for this vehicle with 2 white males holding a female hostage at gunpoint. A few minutes later, several police cars pull into the driveway, jump out with guns, and making everyone get on the ground. It took some explaining on his dad's part about us being a bunch of 15-year-old me couldn't figure out what the fuss is about, but 34-year-old me looks back and realizes it might have been the dumbest thing I've ever done. In 5th grade, I invented a game where you get to swing as high and fast as you can, and at the bottom you run off really fast. I mistimed it, landed on my head on asphalt, and got a serious concussion. Here's a carefully drawn, highly realistic depiction of what actually happened. Asphalt under a swing seems like a bad idea. So back in the day, my brothers and I were shooting a bow and arrow behind our house. We had a prior backstop and a nice target and a bale of hay. After about an hour, we were getting bored, and one of my brothers had a stroke of genius. Let's light one on fire. So there we were, wiring rags to arrows and soaking them in gas and shooting stuff. It didn't take long, and half the yard was on fire. We shot pretty much every flammable thing we could burn in the yard. Since we were running short on stuff to shoot, my brother decided to launch one in a 45-degree arc. We all watched it soar, laughing and giggling. When it hit the apex, it dawned on us that that was in fact a really stupid idea. All 6 of us sprinted off into the woods in the direction it had been shot. It wasn't hard to find it. It lit an entire little meadow on fire, so we ran around stomping out fires for about an hour. When we finally got the fire put out, we were sitting back by the creek, and my oldest brother looks at us and says, "Dad never hears a word about any of this." I let my 14-year-old cousin at the time try driving the family car. I was like 18 back then, or 20, and I told him it's really easy to drive an automatic car. Basically like driving a go-kart. I told him gas is right and brakes were the center. I forgot to mention that changing the gear to D will automatically have the car move. We both panicked and hit a tree in front of us, probably at 1 mile per hour. Luckily, we were in our neighborhood by a dead end. My dad got out of the car one time and left it running when I was like 5. This was 95 or 96. He literally just put it in park, got out, left the door open, and was rummaging through the trunk for something while parked on a very private side street. And me, being 5, hops over to driver's seat, puts it in drive. Still not sure how I did it, and reached the brakes. I don't remember that much. And the car just starts moving. I panicked just as much as my dad, and he'll never forget, just freezing as I see him just jump and take 3 massive strides, throw me in the passenger seat, and hit the brake. Many years ago, I became absolutely smitten with a young woman. She was friendly, intelligent, funny, and almost painfully attractive, with a list of interests and hobbies that seemed like they were near perfect to match my own. Within hours of our first conversation, I had decided that the two of us belonged together. And to resolve that decision, I launched myself into a series of increasingly stupid attempts at seduction. There are a number of idiotic misadventures that I could describe here, but perhaps the most ridiculous of them happened on the evening before Valentine's Day. I had purchased my would-be paramour a small potted plant, something I had been told she'd appreciate more than flowers or chocolate. And I was intent on leaving it somewhere for her to discover, rather than handing it to her in person. While any sane person would have just placed the gift on her welcome mat, I opted for a much less wise approach, convincing the girl's flatmate to give me access to their kitchen. My hope was that I could position the present in such a way that it would remain unnoticed until the next morning, at which point it would seem to magically appear in the morning light. Now, lest you think I was a complete moron, I should mention the young woman in question was supposed to be out of the house while I was making my clandestine delivery. Unfortunately for me, she had changed her schedule at the last minute, arriving back at home almost immediately after I'd been let in. Roommate and I exchanged hurried whispers as we discussed a place for me to hide, but since there were only a few seconds to spare, I had to settle for ducking down behind the counter that separated the kitchen from the living room. Had this been a scene from a romantic comedy, a slapstick series of mad dashes and near misses would have ensued. Sadly, real life doesn't work like that, and I was found almost immediately. The girl walked into the living room, asked her roommate who she'd been talking to, then made a move to approach the kitchen, which I assumed based on what I could hear. Knowing that I was about to be caught, I huddled as far back into the corner as I could, and held the potted plant up in front of my face. Hi Max, I heard the young woman say. You can't see me, I replied. I'm hiding. The good news is that my efforts, despite having thoroughly failed, were more or less appreciated. I semi-sheepishly presented the girl the gift, wished her happy Valentine's Day, then explained why I'd been sneaking around in her apartment. She graciously accepted, but quite reasonably, asked why I tried such a convoluted way of giving her a present. All I could say was that it seemed like a good idea at the time. Hey everyone, that's my first video. Hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe for more.